Hi, and welcome back to this second hour of Focal Point on this special edition of Focal Point on the American Family Radio Talk Network. Great to have you in the conversation. You know, and I think today on Memorial Day, I want to talk a little bit about the history of Memorial Day and some of the backstory there. You know, this is a day to remember the two Navy SEALs who laid down their lives in Benghazi for their fellow Americans. They were former Navy SEALs. They went far above and beyond the call of duty to put their lives at risk. Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty. These were men that were there at the annex in Benghazi. They heard that the consulate, the compound, was under attack. They received orders to stand down. Don't go. Don't help them. Let them be incinerated in that compound. Let them be burned to death. Let them be shot to pieces. Let them be hacked to pieces. Let them be sodomized by the Muslim attackers. And they said, no, we're not going to do it. We are not going to stand by while our fellow Americans are being assaulted like this. So they disobeyed orders and went to the compound. They got there too late to be able to save Ambassador Stevens and the assistant, the aide that he had working with them. So 2 lives were lost in that initial attack. But apparently by their heroism, Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty, the other members, the other Americans, diplomatic personnel that were there at the compound were saved. Their lives were spared. Their lives were saved. They were able to get them to the annex, and there they died in a firefight again, trying to protect the lives of innocent Americans. So they are certainly two men who we ought to honor on Memorial Day for the ultimate sacrifice that they made. You know, Jesus said, greater love has no one than this. Greater love has no man than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. And that's what these two men did, and they should receive honor on this day. And one kind of footnote to the Benghazi thing, apparently there are some more whistleblowers that are getting ready to come forward with information that is going to be devastating to both President Obama and to Hillary Clinton. These are former diplomats. They're not identified by name, but they are apparently prepared to emerge and tell their story. And one of the stories that they are going to tell is that what Ambassador Stevens was doing in Benghazi was buying back Stinger missiles from Al-Qaeda. So the State Department, if you can believe this, had issued, according to these whistleblowers, the State Department had issued the Stinger missiles to Al-Qaeda, to this Ansar al-Sharia group, I imagine. We've suspected for some time there was a gun-running operation. They were trying to take guns that were taken from Gaddafi when he was deposed and get them to rebels in Syria, sort of an Iran-Contra kind of deal gone bad. And that's what these whistleblowers are going to say is Stevens was there in Benghazi trying to buy back these Stinger missiles from Al-Qaeda. The State Department, for whom he worked, had issued them these Stinger missiles. They weren't issued to them by the CIA, but by the State Department. Now he was trying to get them back. And so apparently this Al-Qaeda-affiliated group, Ansar al-Sharia, just used those Stinger missiles. I'm not saying they used Stinger missiles on the compound, but they just used weapons, perhaps that they'd gotten from the State Department, and turned them against Ambassador Stevens and all the personnel there in the compound. So that is explosive. And then a second element of what they are prepared to say is that General Ham, who was the head of AFRICOM, that's the command center in Africa, they are going to say that he, quote, had special ops assets in place that could have come to the aid of the Benghazi consulate immediately. And he was told by the White House not to send the aid to the trapped men. These guys are trapped there. General Ham was mobilizing these guys to go give them help. The White House, according to these whistleblowers, the White House told him to stand down. Don't you send these troops in there to protect innocent American lives. And General Ham decided he was going to disobey those orders and do it anyway. American lives are at stake. He has military members that were trained for specifically this kind of operation. And so he was going to send them anyway, whereupon the White House, and this is going to have to come from Obama, this is Obama's doing, The White House called, because he's the commander-in-chief, you're not going to have some lower-level flunky at the White House make this call and get a guy relieved of command. That's not going to happen. The White House called his deputy and had the deputy threaten to relieve Ham of his command. So he was told to stand down or you were going to be relieved of his command. And if you may remember, he quietly retired in April of 2013. So all of that apparently about ready to come out. Now, Memorial Day goes back to 1868. And it was a tradition that began with Southern women who were part of what had been the Confederate States of America. And they started in 1868 to scatter spring flowers on the graves of both Northern and Southern soldiers. I think originally it was called Decoration Day because they started out decorating the graves of Confederate soldiers. Remember, there were a lot of Union graves in the South because that's where the bulk of the war was fought. So you had a lot of Union graves, and originally they began decorating the graves of the Confederate soldiers. But then they decided in 1868 we should honor all of those that laid down their lives for the cause that they believed in. So they began spreading spring flowers on the graves of both the Northern and the Southern soldiers who died during the Civil War. Now, it was set on May 30 in 1868. In 1968, it was moved to the last Monday in May. That's why we celebrate it on the day that we do. So Memorial Day is set aside to honor those who gave their lives to preserve America's freedom. And since 1921, it has been a tradition for the president to lay a wreath on the tomb of the unknown soldier. By the way, this commander-in-chief failed to salute the Marine that was standing at the base of the Marine One helicopter. He went up the steps, just ignored him, blew right past him, then realized apparently, I'll bet an aide told him, look, you got to go back. I mean, people are watching. People are looking. You know, if people weren't looking, if the tape wasn't running, that'd be fine. You could get away with that complete disrespect for the Marine Guard, but you got to go back. You can't because the cameras are rolling. So he went back down, talked to the guy, shook his hand, never did salute him from what I understand. Maybe on that second pass he did. And remember, also, President Obama completely violated Marine Corps protocol by asking Marines to hold an umbrella for him. Remember when he did that? That was a violation of military protocol. Marines are not supposed to hold umbrellas for politicians. That's not their job. That's not their responsibility. But anyway, since 1921, it's been a tradition on Memorial Day for the president to lay a wreath on the tomb of the unknown soldier. And that tomb, as you are aware, is guarded 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And the way that is done, the number 21 is the highest salute. So the sentry at the tomb of the unknown soldier takes 21 steps, faces the tomb for 21 seconds, turns, pauses for 21 seconds, then retraces his steps. And here are the words on the tomb of the unknown soldier. Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God. Focal Point, AFR Talk, back in 2.